My name is Jill Woodward, and I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of the Ford Piquette Plant Museum. The museum was really rescued by volunteers in 2000 and has been a labor of love for many, many volunteers since that time. We've come a long way in 24 years now, and what was really a building in need of a lot of tender loving care has received that. And we're here this morning to celebrate really the opening of our first floor, which MotorCities National Heritage Area helped with. But the mission of the museum is to preserve and share this incredible historic landmark. It's a U.S. National Historic Landmark, and to celebrate our automotive heritage and spirit of innovation in Detroit. There really isn't a building in the Motor City history that's more iconic than this building here in Milwaukee Junction. And that's because this is where the Motor City got its start. There were a half a dozen plus car companies operating, within 5 miles of Henry Ford here in just after the turn of the century. He opened this plant. It was groundbreaking in terms of its many innovations in 1904. He was here until 1910 before moving on to Highland Park. But the year that really stands out for us, as well as the rest of the world, is 1908, when the very first Model T was built here.
Great. And so a lot of history in between all of that.
Yes.
One of the monumental things, like you said, that we're here to celebrate is the fact that you have reclaimed and reopened the first floor of the museum, the street level entry to it. So at what moment in time did someone say, let's take on this huge project of restoring the first floor? And so how did all that come together?
That's a good question. I think it's been on the radar of our leadership for a very long time. It's such a historic area, but really without the support of Motor Cities, this is not something we could have afforded to do. But it also just opens up a wealth of possibilities for us in terms of special exhibits, special programming, educational events, historical presentations. There are just so many things we can now do in this space that weren't possible right in the middle of the museum where the rest of our event space is. So we just feel like we've been given a tremendous gift here, and it allows us to share the building with new audiences and in new and innovative ways.
Okay. All right, so we turn to Steve Shotwell, who has played many roles over the years and worn many hats, including a fetching top hat. But today he is former president of the Piquette board, as well as chair of the capital improvement campaign, amongst other things. So Steve, you've been working at the site for many, many years, and I want you to tell us about some of the details of the first floor restoration, and sort of how the ball got rolling and the work that went into it.
Sure, thanks, Brian. Yep, we're lucky people. We are so fortunate to have this facility still existing today. We have a board that's just tremendously committed to preserving and nurturing, this institution. And it was 4 years ago at a board meeting that I shared with the entire board. I said, it happened to be Martin Luther King's birthday, by the way. And I said, I have a dream. And that dream was that there'll be a day in the future when our visitors to Piquette walk in the front door. Right now, our visitors come in a side door here, and it's not very spectacular. It's a classic factory type of an entry. But this is one of those things that just, I really think, kind of spurred on that whole idea of, yes, Piquette can be a better place. But this was a rental facility at the time. It had drywall in it and some modern features inside of it. It used to be a bakery years ago, as a matter of fact. And we knew that there was a lot of work that needed to be done, a lot of fundraising to be done. And basically that was the spark plug where we started to build a vision for how Piquette can be a better place. And essentially every single day since then, Piquette has becoming a better place, one small step at a time. And this area right here used to be the business office for Ford from 1904 through 1910. We have some marvelous pictures of this whole area as well. Those pictures give us very, very clear insight in terms of what was done here, how it was done, who the major people were. We know the names of the managers as well as all the employees that were down here. And it gives us all this motivation for let's make this room right here into what it used to be, so our guests can appreciate what was going on inside of this factory and looking at the business operations that were here.
So tell us about then when the work began. Sort of, you talked about what it was, when the plant was operational. But when you walked into this space and said, "We're going to start this renovation," what did the floors look like? What did the walls look like?
Yes.
What did you work with?
Well, this room, which is well over 2,500 square foot, had drywall every place. It was leased out to a company that did linen work. They didn't launder here, but they did warehousing here, and management offices were in this location. So kind of a classic drop ceiling, fluorescent lights. They knew they were in a very important place, as they were tenants of ours at that time. But they also didn't have a lot of respect for the fact that this was a historical building and something that really needed to be preserved. So one of the first things we did is we did some studies of the area, even when the tenant was still here. And those studies involved, we wanted to see the walls that were behind the drywall walls. So I got permission from the president of the linen company that we were actually drilling holes periodically in this whole facility and putting cameras through the walls so we could see it. We knew we had pictures and drawings of where the offices were, and we had a good idea where they start and stop. But when we did those penetrations through the walls, we knew within a quarter of an inch where those walls were. So we brought our architect, Albert Kahn Associates, into here, and we did some more studies as well. This drop ceiling, we started pulling down tiles, and the discoveries that up here in the ceilings are just phenomenal. You'll see, yes, because it's a factory, you're going to see very, very heavy timbers, et cetera, so they could support the weights that were here. But not only that, we started seeing evidence of where the staircase was that went up towards Henry's office from this very front door right here. One of the things we have to talk about at Piquette are the windows. As you look around at the facility, you're going to say, oh, they have a lot of windows. Yeah, reality is we have 355 windows altogether, not little panes of glass, but the window units themselves. 355 of them, and they were monstrous in terms of the amount of work it was going to take. The amount of deterioration that was in those windows was just huge. And it was in 2003, shortly after this building was saved, and we recognized its importance, et cetera. 2003, a window team was formed, and they started restoring the windows. Restoring a window doesn't mean you tear the window down and rebuild it. It means you take the pieces of that window and you salvage every single scrap of wood that you can, and you blend in some modern materials, some epoxies, et cetera, so that it can have that duration of life, so that it can carry on for another 115 years, hopefully. That window team has been working diligently since 2003. And now we're down to doing the last two windows. This room right here we couldn't do because when the tenant was here, they had all this drywall and other kinds of things that were covering it up. So finally we've been able to clear the room out. We can get the windows, and you're going to see some amazing things that are being done to these windows. This room was a little unusual as it relates to the windows, because in a factory, they didn't have to dress those windows out. But here in a business office, it was done a lot differently. They stained the windows. It's beautiful oak that you're going to see that's on these windows. And these windows, they were all painted at some point in time. And we know that the original windows from the pictures we have weren't painted. Indeed, they were stained in a beautiful way that oak would appear. And it's been our mission in this room for the last year and a half. We've been working on the windows here, stripping that paint off and returning the splendor and the beauty of that wood just the way you would have seen it between 1904 and 1910. These windows now are almost completely done. All of the glass part is done, and now we're working on the framing of it. We're getting ready so that eventually we can return this room to its splendor that it was, with beadboard and, yes, the right kind of flooring inside of it. All that research and all those kinds of planning is what's going on right now, so that our real vision is that when the public starts coming here, they're going to be walking in this door, the front door, as rightfully they should be, and being able to see James Cousins' office, which is directly behind us over here. They're going to be able to see over here the accounting office. The safe, indeed, still exists over here. They're going to learn that this is the place where a lot of the dealerships were organized. They're going to learn that this is the place where shipping and receiving was taking place, transportation parts, mammoth problems in terms of getting parts here, but as importantly, being able to deliver cars to a market that just wasn't here in the United States. But even during this time, foreign markets were being developed. And eventually those are going to go all around the world.
So Jill, all of this work that we've described here, the work on this wonderful project, brought you guys to the point where you were the recipients of our 2023 Award of Excellence for Revitalization. Exciting moment. And so talk about what you felt as you went up to accept the award on behalf of the organization and all the folks involved.
Well, I feel personally incredibly moved to be a part of this community. There are people here that set a very high standard for everything they do in terms of the passion that they give, the quality of the work that they do. We are so fortunate in just the volunteers that we have. There are people who can build things, people who, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, construction managers, and all of these people, not all of them retired, but most of them retired, are giving their blood, sweat, and tears to preserve this place so that the whole community can have access to it. So yeah, when at the banquet dinner, which we felt so fortunate to win this award, there were a lot of very worthy projects that were nominated, and frankly, we were kind of holding on to our we were clutching our pearls to see, or at least I was, to see if we were actually going to win this award, and we felt so proud to win it, and also my goal was to really, hopefully, shine a spotlight on our volunteers. I just, we can't thank them enough. It's a very special community, and I feel so fortunate to be a part of it.
So talk about how people can become actively involved in things that are going on across the building, not just the first floor, but overall.
So we have a Preserving the Legend campaign that is ongoing right now, and we're so fortunate recently to receive a matching grant, a challenge grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. So we have been granted $500,000. We will get $1 for every $3 that we can raise, and what this is going to do is help us with both major preservation infrastructure projects as well as accessibility. While this building is still standing 120 years old and very proudly, it still is somewhat fragile. We need certain aspects in place, such as a new elevator, to be able to really preserve the old elevator, which is now 98 years old. So, and we need these things so that we can continue to welcome tens of thousands of people every year. So we welcome gifts of all sizes to the campaign. Folks can give online. They can, frankly, mail us a check. Though we would welcome talking to anyone about how they can make an impact.
We have people that come here to the building, and as they walk around and you hear the floors creak, they say, "This is where it really happened, wasn't it?" Often we go to museums, but seldom can we go to a museum that's the actual place where things really, really happened. And people recognize that very, very quickly. So in Preserving the Legend, not only are we attacking the electrical problem, but we have parking problems here, we need restrooms. Imagine what the plumbing is like in a 1904 building. We also, so those are some of the absolute we have to do's, because there's code issues that are there. Jill mentioned the elevator, is something that's important to us. But there's other things that we want to do as well. This room in particular that we're in right now, we want to do a full restoration of this back to the business office. Right now, we've been able to clean it up and make it so it's very usable. And we're starting to use it in our daily operations, which it really, really kind of helps us, because our museum, although it's a pretty good sized museum, we have all kinds of demands for additional spaces for meetings and weddings and student activities and things like that. So it's giving us this opportunity so that we can put those things to good use as well.
So where can someone go to learn more about the campaign or even get to the campaign?
Folks can give online at www.fordpiquetteplant.org. I will happily take any phone call from anyone who would like to learn about supporting the campaign. They can email us at info@piquetteplant.org. But also, if you want come down to the museum and you want to stop in the business office, people send money by checks. We have folks give donations of stock. There's any number of ways to give. We love for you to do it in person so that we can thank you, but online is also very convenient.
Well, I want to wrap this up by thanking you both for all that you do to literally preserve this legend, this iconic site, this National Historic Landmark, and a place that is so emblematic of the work that MotorCities does. So we appreciate your partnership over the years and your time today talking about the first floor of restoration. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.